So, what are some of the different reasons as to why certain fans tend to gravitate towards the different size scale of cars? For example, our 132 Fast and Furious line will typically does very well, but it seems to attract more so the casual fan. But say for example, if you have a guy who's into to 118 scale, big time Gunsel, he's probably a very hardcore, well established fan. And so what do you guys think that is?
I mean, there's different levels of collectability, at least from what I see. I think a lot of the ones that are highly, highly collectible are going to be our 164 scales. But throughout history, I think in the toy industry, that scale has just kind of cemented itself as, kind of put itself out for that. For one, I think the price point. Two, the size, you're able to just kind of amass a whole like car garage or something to that point. Hot Wheels, I'm sure, has a lot to do with it as well. But what you're also able to achieve in scales that are a little bit bigger, like the 24 scale, which we see here, is kind of like that happy medium. It's big enough for you to get a detail, like a lot of detail to it that's maybe not necessarily as much as like a 118 scale. Like I said, I think it's just that kind of happy medium. And that 32 scale is one of those, I think, going back to our last podcast when we were talking about like the difference between a hobby market and the retail market. Well, we kind of view 32 scale as like if a mom was with the kid or something, kind of walking down the aisle and the kid's making a big deal or not really behaving. Well, the mom can just grab a 32 scale. Here's your car, play with it. Type.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I agree. There's some people who are completists. They want to buy every car in the lineup, and they need to be able to afford it. So that's why they gravitate towards a 64. So because it's a lot, lower price point as compared to a 118 scale, and the way we do, we don't have really chase cars really, we may throw something in there sometimes naturally just by the nature
chase cars. I'm sorry.
So chase cars are like cars that are in our assortment that have less quantity than
they're like exclusive.
Yeah. So if you find one, it's just a lot more valuable to the person because it's more exclusive.
Yeah.
Maybe we have 10,000 pieces of one car, but this one chase would maybe have 5,000 or less. But we typically don't do that. But by nature of the business, sometimes things will happen where we have to change something midway through. And like, for example, a rim, for example, may change halfway through, and then we put a new rim on, and now like that first car with the original rim becomes the chase because now that one's harder to find.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the market anymore. But what happens there's one kind of collector that will just look for those chases because they know those will be a little more valuable after they buy it, or they just flip them. But we kind of don't want to breed those kind of collectors. We'd rather have people who really enjoy, who are really enthusiasts of the genre of cars that we're making, and have them collect them all if they're into it. So there's the collector that likes small scale cars because they can collect a ton because it's a lot more affordable. Plus they can put a ton on a shelf.
Yeah.
24 scale I think is a good happy medium where there's a lot of good detail in the car. Because with 64 you can only do so much. You can't really get you can get the motors in there, but then keeping the price point like we were talking about in the past podcast. We want to keep it affordable.
Yeah.
So if we start going into engines and all that kind of detail, the price of our 64 would go up crazy.
Tough, huh?
Yeah. But with the 24 scale, you can get all that detail. It's bigger, but then it's just a nice model with good detail on it. 18 scale is for I think the hardcore enthusiasts who really like the detail in vehicles, because with that scale you can really get into the nooks and crannies of the cars and really make like threading if you want on the upholstery. If you we can actually get in there and do that kind of stuff if we really wanted to. There's things that you can, like the high end 118 scale cars are ridiculously detailed.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they're beautiful. I mean, but you pay. It comes at a cost. So the more detail, the larger you get, the more detail you get, the higher the cost of the collectible.
So what are some of the most the most expensive ones that you've seen before?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean,
I have a few in my office that range from like $200 to $400.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn, have I seen them?
No,
No.
I have a Hako,
Yeah.
and I also have a R34 Skyline.
I mean, it's like real cloth interior.
Seatbelts, everything.
Seatbelts,
You
yeah.
the steering. It has the axles and the wheels turn and all that stuff. Yeah.
And are you keeping them to eventually? We'll sell them later.
No.